10 seconds. That is all it takes to ruin a reputation. 10 seconds to prove that everything you have built, every hour you have spent bleeding on a mat, was either a solid foundation or a fragile lie. In the world of martial arts, where lineage and tradition are guarded like crown jewels, 10 seconds can feel like a lifetime, especially when your entire career is the stake on the table. It is a sweltering July evening in 1964. We are inside a cramped dojo in Long Beach, California. If you were there, the first thing you would notice isn't the prestige of the event, but the smell. It is a thick, cloying mixture of industrial pine cleaner and the sour, stale scent of sweat that has soaked into the floorboards over decades. The air doesn't move. It just sits on your skin, heavy and wet, making every breath feel like a chore. Outside, the world is changing. The 60s are in full swing, and the air is thick with revolution. But inside these four walls, time has stood still. This is a temple of tradition, a place where the old ways are the only ways. Standing on one side of the mat is a man who looks like he was carved out of an ancient oak tree. He is a veteran Judo fifth Dan, a master of leverage and power. His GI is thick, yellowed slightly by time, and his belt is frayed at the edges, a silent testament to the thousands of bodies he has sent flying into the canvas. He is a man of gravity. When he moves, the floorboards groan. He represents the establishment, the immovable object of Japanese martial arts in America. Across from him stands a young man who looks entirely out of place. He is lean, almost dangerously thin by comparison. He moves with a kinetic, feline energy, his feet barely touching the wood. This is Bruce Lee. At this moment, he isn't the global icon on a t-shirt. He is a 23-year-old upstart with a sharp tongue and a philosophy that makes the elders in the room grind their teeth. To the traditionalist sitting on the sidelines, Bruce is nothing more than a loud-mouthed interloper. He has been going around telling anyone who will listen that their classical styles are too slow, too rigid, and too disconnected from the reality of a street fight. The room is dead silent. You can hear the hum of a distant refrigerator and the frantic buzz of a fly against a window pane. The challenge is simple, almost insulting in its brevity. The master has exactly 10 seconds. All he has to do is execute a single throw. If Bruce Lee hits the mat, he loses everything. He has agreed that if he is thrown, he will pack his bags and leave California for good. No more teaching, no more demonstrations, no more challenging the status quo. He will disappear into the background of history as just another kid who talked too much and couldn't back it up. But if Bruce stays upright, if he can survive 10 seconds against a man twice his size and 10 times his rank, then the new way earns its seat at the table. The clock is the judge. The master is the executioner. The master steps forward. He doesn't see a threat. He sees a chore. He has thrown men much larger than this kid with a flick of his wrists. He expects the easy leverage of a heavyweight bout, the familiar resistance of a body that fights back with muscle. He reaches out, his massive, calloused hands aiming for Bruce's lapels. In judo, the grip is everything. Once those hands lock onto the fabric, the fight is usually over. It's a game of physics. You find the center of gravity, you disrupt it, and you let the earth do the rest of the work. But as the clock starts, something happens that no one in the room understands. 1 second. The master lunges. His fingers brush the cotton of Bruce's ji. He closes his grip, expecting to feel the solid weight of a man he can pull toward him. Instead, he feels nothing. It's as if Bruce has turned into smoke. The master's hands close on air, his own momentum carrying him an inch further than he intended. It's a tiny error, a microscopic lapse, but in a 10-second fight, an inch is a mile. 3 seconds. The master adjusts. He is a professional. He doesn't panic. He plants his feet, sinking his weight into the floor, and tries to close the distance again. This time he manages to get a handful of Bruce's sleeve. He prepares to execute a classic hip throw, the kind of move he has done 10,000 times. He loads his shoulder, steps in, and pulls. Nothing happens. Bruce Lee hasn't moved. He isn't pushing back with his muscles. He isn't grunting or straining. He is simply there. The master looks down, confused. He has the grip. He has the leverage. But every time he tries to initiate the rotation, his own strength seems to bleed out of his wrists. It's as if there is a break in the circuit. The power that should be flowing from the master's legs, through his core and into Bruce's body, is being diverted. The traditionalists on the sidelines lean forward. Their faces, usually masks of stoic indifference, are beginning to crack. They came here to see a lesson taught. They came to see the cocky kid humbled. But 5 seconds have passed, and the oak tree is starting to sway while the sapling remains rooted. The master is sweating now, not just from the July heat, but from the sudden, terrifying realization that he is fighting something he doesn't recognize. He tries to change his angle. He tries to use his weight to crush Bruce's posture. But every time he applies pressure, Bruce makes a tiny, almost invisible adjustment. If you were watching from a few feet away, you wouldn't see it. You would just see two men locked in a strange, static embrace. But if you were a master of anatomy, if you could zoom in with a high-speed camera, you would see it. It wasn't about Bruce's biceps or his chest. The secret was in his hand. Specifically, it was a focused, almost silly tension in his pinky finger. It sounds like a joke. How can a pinky finger stop a 200-pound judo master from throwing you? But Bruce Lee wasn't playing the game everyone else was playing. He understood that the human body is a series of chains. If you can break one link in that chain, the entire structure collapses. By maintaining a specific tension in that outermost finger, Bruce was anchoring his entire forearm in a way that disrupted the master's ability to find his center of gravity. He was creating a structural jam in the master's grip. By the 7-second mark, the master is desperate. He is no longer trying to be technical. He is pulling with everything he has, his face turning a deep shade of crimson. He is a man who has spent his life believing that power and tradition are the ultimate truths. And yet here he is, being held at bay by a man who seems to be doing almost nothing. The silence in the dojo is now absolute. The only sound is the heavy, ragged breathing of the master and the soft, rhythmic ticking of the clock. The observers are no longer looking at Bruce with contempt. They are looking at him with a growing sense of unease. They are witnessing the moment a paradigm shifts. They are seeing the exact point where the way it has always been done runs headfirst into the way it actually works. 8 seconds. The master makes one final violent attempt to wrench Bruce off his feet. He puts every ounce of his 5th Dan prestige into a single desperate heave. He expects the young man to fly. He expects the canvas to rise up and meet him. But Bruce Lee is still standing. He hasn't moved an inch from his original spot. He looks the master in the eye, not with anger, but with a terrifyingly calm clarity. It is the look of a man who knows exactly why the world is behaving the way it is. 9 seconds. The master's grip begins to slip, not because Bruce is pulling away, but because the master's own muscles are failing him. His forearms are burning, his oxygen is gone, and his spirit is flickering. He has spent 9 seconds trying to move a mountain, only to find out the mountain was actually a mirror, reflecting his own force back at him. 10 seconds. The buzzer sounds. It is a small, sharp noise, but in the stillness of that Long Beach dojo, it sounds like a cannon blast. The master lets go. He stands there, his chest heaving, his hands trembling. He looks at his own palms as if they have betrayed him. He has failed. The giant did not fall because he lacked power. He failed because he was fighting a ghost who understood a secret of human mechanics that rendered the giant's entire life's work obsolete. The room freezes. No one moves. No one speaks. The air is still thick with pine cleaner and sweat, but the atmosphere has changed forever. The loud-mouthed interloper is the only person in the room who isn't breathless. He hasn't won a fight in the way these men understand fighting. He hasn't punched. He hasn't kicked. He has simply refused to be moved. But Bruce Lee doesn't gloat. He doesn't turn to the crowd and beat his chest. Instead, he does something that arguably changes history more than the 10 seconds of the fight itself. He reaches out. He takes the master's trembling hand in his own, and then he begins to show him why. The buzzer fades into the humid air of the dojo, leaving behind a silence so heavy it feels physical. 10 seconds. In the time it takes to tie a shoelace, an entire worldview has been dismantled. The judo master stands there, his fingers still hooked into the fabric of Bruce's GI, but the strength has left them. His knuckles are white, not from effort now, but from the shock of a fundamental failure. He looks at Bruce Lee, this kid from Seattle, this actor, this disruptor, and he sees something he cannot name. The traditionalists in the front row are frozen. These are men who have spent 30, 40 years mastering the art of the throw. They know the physics of the human body like the back of their own hands, or so they thought. To them, Bruce staying upright wasn't just a lost bet, it was a glitch in the universe. It was as if he had ignored the law of gravity itself. But Bruce doesn't walk away. He doesn't take a bow or offer a smirk to the stunned crowd. He doesn't use the moment to claim he is the superior fighter. Instead, he does something that catches everyone off guard. He reaches out and gently takes the master's massive right hand. He doesn't pull it away, he adjusts it. In the middle of that Long Beach dojo, surrounded by men who wanted him gone, Bruce Lee becomes a teacher. He shows the master his own hand. He points to the master's pinky finger, which is currently gripped tight around the lapel, white-knuckled and strained. Then, Bruce demonstrates the secret that kept him on his feet for those 10 seconds. It wasn't about being stronger. It wasn't about being faster. It was about a microscopic adjustment in the ulnar nerve and the structural alignment of the forearm. Bruce explains that when most people grab an opponent, they use their entire hand with equal pressure. They think more grip equals more control. But by over-tensing the thumb and the first 2 fingers, they actually create a hinge in their own wrist that an experienced opponent can exploit. Bruce shows the master that by applying a specific, almost silly tension in the pinky finger, and only the pinky, the entire anatomy of the arm changes. This tension locks the ulnar bone into the wrist joint, turning the soft forearm into a rigid, unshakable pillar of bone. It's a trick of leverage that doesn't require muscle. It requires an understanding of how the human machine is wired. The master tries it. He resets his grip, applying that tiny, specific pressure Bruce just described. His eyes go wide. He feels the difference immediately. The new way wasn't a rejection of tradition, it was an evolution of it. It was the realization that while the masters were looking at the mountain, Bruce was looking at the pebbles that held the mountain together. The tension in the room begins to dissipate, replaced by a low murmur of realization. The interloper hadn't come to destroy their art. He had come to wake it up. He hadn't just won a 10-second challenge. He had opened a door to a new era of martial science. 1 week later, the story of the Long Beach dojo begins to spread. It doesn't travel through newspapers or television. It moves through the underground grapevine of the martial arts world. The pinky finger detail becomes a whisper in gyms from San Francisco to New York. People start questioning the classic forms. They start looking for the small, quiet adjustments that yield massive results. Years later, elite grapplers and Brazilian jiu-jitsu masters would sit in darkened rooms, re-watching graining footage of Bruce Lee, trying to capture that same structural integrity. They would realize that Bruce wasn't just a movie star who could kick high. He was a master of the invisible. He understood that in a world of noise, the person who masters the quietest detail is the one who remains unshakable. This moment in 1964 changed the trajectory of Bruce Lee's life. He didn't have to leave California. Instead, the world came to him. But more importantly, it changed the way we think about conflict and resolution. Fed proved that you don't need to outmuscle the world to change it. You just need to know where the leverage is. Decades have passed since that sweltering July evening. The dojo is likely gone, and the men who sat in those front rows have mostly passed into history. But the lesson remains. We often find ourselves in our own 10-second challenges. We find ourselves pushed against a wall, facing a problem that seems twice our size and 10 times our strength. In those moments, our instinct is to scream, to push back, to use every ounce of our muscle to force a result. We make a lot of noise. We create a lot of friction. And like that judo master, we often end up breathless and defeated, wondering why our strength wasn't enough. But what if the answer isn't more power? What if the answer is that one small, silly detail you've been ignoring? What if the solution to your biggest problem isn't a grand gesture, but a microscopic adjustment in how you hold your ground? When you find yourself in a struggle, are you trying to outmuscle the world, Or are you looking for the one small detail that makes you unshakable? Where in your life are you overcompensating with noise because you haven't found your leverage? Who have you subestimated because they didn't look like the master you expected? And when you finally find the secret that gives you the upper hand, what do you do with it? Do you use it to humiliate the person across from you, or do you reach out, adjust their hand, and show them how to stand firm? The greatest strength isn't found in the fist that strikes or the arm that throws. It is found in the mind that understands. Real power is the ability to win the fight without ever needing to throw a punch. It is the quiet confidence of a man who knows that 10 seconds is plenty of time to change the world, provided you know exactly where to put your weight. Who are you trying to move when you should be learning how to be unmoved? The door is open. The secret is in the smallest finger. The rest is up to you.